like, hey, I really don't like the way life's going these days.
Good to see you, good to see you.
Gotta switch it up, make it right, cause I'm getting tired.
Good afternoon, wherever
even
you
though
are.
I'm
I don't know, but I'm gonna tell you right
like
now.
I
I'm
need a
sending you a lot of good vibes.
Time to make it move, gonna get your breakthrough. So what you feeling like? Get up, turn on the light, time to make it right. This is your new life. Come on, let's go. Change your whole headspace. Your past is not today, it is not too late. Find a mirror place, and then you say, be like, that's a good stuff. You want way more than enough, so go out and be great and stop. Go out and do what you love, like this sexy good stuff. You are way more than enough, so go out and be great and stuff. Go out and do what you love right now. This job drive me crazy. I don't wanna live like this. I can barely get by. You better pay me, cause I'm stressed how I'm gon' pay these bills. Now can't stop drumming, don't freeze me.
It's so good to see all of you.
Gonna get up, grind until I've made it.
Let me tell you, I miss you.
So what you feeling like? Get up, turn on the light, time to make it right. This is your new life.
And
come on, let's go. Change your whole headspace.
look, you know what time it is.
It is not too late.
You know how we do. We just get moving. We just get grooving.
Hey, sexy good stuff. You want way more than enough, so go out and be great and stuff. Go out and do what you love, like hey, sexy good stuff. You want way more than enough, so go out and be great and stuff. Go out and do what you love right now. Sexy good stuff. You want way more than enough, so go out and be great and stuff. Go out and do what you love, like hey, sexy good stuff.
I want to know who's in the house. I want to know who's in the house. Where are you at? Where are you at? Let's see. Who's in the place? Oh my goodness. It's always a thing. Oh my God. Heather, always, brighter days to you, my love. Oh my gosh. Look, beloveds, it's Keep Living. I'm your host, Jay. You know, some of you follow me on Instagram, The Ethical Evangelist. However you find me, however you know me, I hope that it is something authentic, something truthful, something that is restorative, something that is also at the same time reclaiming for you. I love to be the person that honestly, what you see is what you get. And that is a real thing. So it's really good to be in the space with all of you. I missed you last week. Thank you to Justice. Thank you to Emily and the mods of this whole entire family. Can I just call this family? This is not just community for me. This is family. I'm getting quite comfortable. I'm almost ready to take off my shoes. I might have to do that one day. Actually, you know what? I think I'll just do that right now. Let me just take off my shoes and we're gonna play. I need a little Mr. Rogers intro. Yeah. So I'm gonna take off my shoes and relax my feet. If y'all remember that song from the 90s. And you know, I just want to say thank you so much for that support last week. Last week I unfortunately had an experience where my dog passed away, and I'm sure many of you have some lovely, if not furry friends, you have scaly friends. If you don't have scaly friends, you have feathery friends. And if you don't have any of those, you have 8-legged friends and 6-legged friends. And it doesn't matter as long as that you actually are expressing their love to, you are loving them and they are loving you back in the way that they understand within their nature. And so, yeah, I keep shoes on, Emily. I know it's a thing for me. I actually will keep my shoes on. I be trying to match head to toe, and I just be like, okay, it's time. It's been very difficult. And I sit with a lot of discomfort. And some of you know Delacroix, who have followed me from here to there. Delacroix is a dear one, and it has been with me ever since my diagnosis. Delacroix and when I talk about diagnosis, I'm talking about my HIV diagnosis. So I've had Delacroix literally for about 13 years, 13, 14 years. So it's been very beautiful to journey with him, and now it is just me and his sister, and so I'm very working through that transition. And I think it's funny because I can do this with y'all, right? And I think that sometimes we forget, like, and I'm a person where it's like I'm always on. I am on. I am on. I am ready. And when something knocks me off my feet, it's very, very hard. It's very, very hard. And I do my best to pull it all together, but that day I couldn't. And so I really appreciate you, Justice, doing the work and allowing for us to have another incredible show still. But I also wanted to point this out, which was funny because my topic, because I know a lot of people get curious about who am I? What is the essence of my personality? And what is, what am I on? What am I on? What is my energy? And I remember being described to somebody who had experienced me as someone who has positive, toxic positivity. Toxic positivity. And I was like, wow. Woo. and I cringed. I cringed. And I thought to myself, I wanted to have this talk with you last week, and I think this is still appropriate because I feel like the moment that, on that Tuesday, to face the concerns that were facing me regarding my dog, I realized that it was probably the most appropriate thing to also just take a moment and sit with those feelings. And I know a lot of us, since we've been sharing in this space together, have probably made some adjustments in being together. And when I say that, I mean, like, really, like, here it is, some virtual cat all the way in the East Coast is telling you that they love you. And some virtual cat in the East Coast is being like, come on, get hype with me. That virtual cat just so happens to be me, by the way, but I'm willing to be in with you. And I want to make sure that, too, sincerely, that that that's an authentic thing. This is not just show. This is me. But also at the same time, I want, and I think I shared with y'all before the wonderful words of Dr. Howard Thurman, where Thurman does say that I want to be me without making it uncomfortable for you to be you. I want to offer a space where I'm not looking for necessarily just joy. I'm not looking for spaces that are just fun. Even though I have my acronym for fun, just by the way, when I say fun, I do believe in fun. I think it's very actually important. My acronym, though, fun is an acronym for me. So it basically means that you're fabulous, right? And then you are united and you're necessary. And so, yes, all of that happens when you're having fun, to be fabulous, united, and necessary. And it is such an important factor to think about how one comes off. And so I wanted to offer some of you the space, just a moment of the space to sit with me, because I actually am still grieving, even my dog, right? And I'm still adjusting. And it still hurts. And it's okay for it to hurt. And I know not everybody's day is like that. Right? Some people actually are not ready to keep living and dance it all out. And some people don't even know how to roll even the worst, biggest stones off of their body and pull off some of the weight of the day. And you do wish you had somebody in your corner. But then there's just sometimes you're just like, I just need to sit with it. I just need to sit with it. I need to sit with the heaviness. I need to sit with the discomfort. I need to sit with the fear. I need to sit with it. And would you mind sitting with me in it? And sometimes that's it. Sometimes it's okay to sit in people's, distress and in their despair. And they don't need to be cheered up. And they don't need to be brought into a joyous place. Everybody has the right to wake up to their own morning. Everybody has the right to wake up to their own morning, where their sun does shine for them. And I find that to be important. I'm not trying to sound humdrum about it. I just want to be very clear about making sure that we hold space for those who do grieve, those who do get exhausted, those who do get tired, those who do feel frustrated, those who get agitated, those who feel like I'm ready to throw in the towel, I could give up today or tomorrow, I'm okay. Those who go through that. It's not that you're depressed or anything, you just sad and you need the moment to really sit in that. It's not that you're always bent out of shape and you didn't bent over backwards for everybody else. And by the time your time comes, you can't bend forwards nor backwards. You just ready to bend over and fall asleep, right? It's not that you didn't take care of yourself. Everybody else has tried to do what they can do to take care of you. But the truth of the matter is that, you still need to go get your hair done. You still need to go get your hair did. You still need to go get your makeup. And all of that is there. Can you just sit with me? Can you just sit with me? Can you sit with me in my tears? Can you sit with me in my discomfort? Can you sit with me as I try to work through it? I'm not perfect. I'm human. I'm not perfect. I'm human. It takes a lot to wake up every morning to be the person that I am. It's not a moment that we can just sit back and go, oh, everything's fine. Not after you felt like you've put all your chips into one thing or all of your eggs into one basket and it just seems to fail. It's such an important thing. And so why am I after this? I'm after this because we have a tendency, especially within our community, I think it's the most funniest thing because every time I think about what every year that people promote Pride, it's this boom, big thing, so loud and it's so proud. And it's like queer people, those who are gender diverse, we're not just loud and proud. Some of us don't make a lot of noise. Actually, some of us don't want to have a bunch of rainbow shirts and hats on. We just want to be. Right? We just want to be. We just want to show up. And we want to do it. And just show up in the space and hold a radical space that allows for us to be us without having to exploit ourselves. So look, check this. Happy Black Love Month. Okay? Because in all of that, as I think about tokenism, that happens. I didn't say Black History. I said Happy Black Love Month. You know, this is an opportunity for us to understand that this is a month, as so many other months that celebrate great aspects of our identities and social identities, that we need to be able to hold both. I need you to be in love with me, not only because of the joy that I offer, but be in love with me also because of the struggle that I've gone through. Come on, right? We know what that's like. I'm sure we know what that's like. And so, right, like, this is the moment where we can share in this space together. And I want to be the first one to say that to you, that we on this network, particularly on Transverse, are going to be doing some beautiful things, especially on this show where, you know, you get a chance to engage with me and all of the aspects of my ancestors and my elders, because of the story of this beautiful melanin. Okay, yeah, this is beautiful melanin, all day, every day. I am blessed to be melanin induced, and okay, and I'm very happy to say that. But I want us to keep in mind that as we look at this month, as it is a month to celebrate people and the history of African Americans in this country, and the premise of this, let us not just remember herstories, but let us remember what really got us through. I was listening really briefly. To my mother and my partner Storey, and they were talking about how schools, particularly libraries, actually are going, and you know, people are really, you know, kind of protesting. Parents are protesting to remove, you know, certain books and things off the shelf, though, especially of regarding queer, trans, gender explorative conversations, you know, and authors, and they're removing them off the shelf because parents want to protect their children from, you know, from learning about these things. I want to pinpoint something that I thought is very important that me and Storey also realize. The reason why they want to take stories about trans people, non-binaries, folk, gender, diversity, queer dialogue, gay, lesbian, you name it. The reason why I want to take that off the shelf is because they had to take off, and they're after taking off, critical race theory. I'm gonna mess with you. Critical race theory is a problem in this country on so many levels for so many people who are not willing to be critical, who are not willing, let's break down critical, who are not willing to be conscious, who are not willing and able to practice compassion, who are not willing to actually make sure that justice is what love looks like in public. People who have an issue with critical race theory are definitely going to have a problem with queer folk and the narratives and the stories and the experience and the uplifting of those voices on the margins. I'm sure you didn't expect for me to go here, and trust me, I just want to stay here for a few seconds, because one of the things that we need to understand is that we got to realize who we're in the trench with. I've said this multiple times, and I need us to fall in love with each other's struggle, not just fall in love with just their identity. We got to fall in love with the experience and the journey that it's taken most of us, all of us on this on this stream, what it's taken us to get here. And so I hope that we begin to think about this in the same framing and understand that it is people who laid down critical race theory as ways for us as trans and non-binary folk, and then within the gender diverse community, to actually undergird ourselves to help other people be critical about how they see us in the world. Do you hear what I'm saying? I hope I'm making some friends today. Right? That we've got to teach the experience even to those who think they understand our experience. And I get it. I don't want to educate you. I get it. We do that. I used to be guilty of it. But I have to say, I'm an educator at heart. So I need folk to walk alongside me. I need some folk to walk alongside me because they might be able to help me translate, right, the greater work that needs to be done in this country. They might help me dismantle some of the systemic issues and some of the structural issues and some of those nasty, disgusting social norms that have tried to keep so many people bound from living out authentically, realistically, who they are and who they are becoming. But the reason why this is happening is because if they're going to go after the foundation of liberation in this country, here's a little history. Liberation in this country starts with the conversation of this country being a wasteland. Liberation in this country starts with the fact that people who came to this country were already criminals, stowaways, no good, considered waste people. It was already what was considered to be white trash. I know that's some tough language. I love you. But this is what we got to understand about this country. And so people who were already traumatized by Eurotoxicity, patriarchal systemic issues that came to this country started practicing on some folk, Black folks more specifically, people who came from Africa into this country to be treated in the same disrespect and the same horrific do you see what I'm saying? The foundation of a colonial situation created what we understand America to be early forms of white trash. I don't know about you, but I was raised with the understanding of this. Hurt people hurt people. Oop. Okay? Hurt people hurt people. And so what do we have? We have a people who don't know what America has to offer, so they go ahead and do what? They fight against those of the First Nation of this country. They displace them. They constantly are pushing them out. they massacre them, they kill them, and then have the nerve to bring Africans from West Africa, the Congo, Algeria. You come on, the Mende people, the Balanta people, the Yoruba, they begin to bring individuals over, mix them up to confuse the language so they won't revolt. So this is critical race theory. Y'all about to get educated today, right? This is what happens. If I can never get you to know who you are and never get you to know your community, and if I mix up your history, if I mixed up your stories, if I mixed up your values and your belief systems, you'll never get connected. You'll never get connected. This is why it's hard in this society, feeling like you're walking a lot of times in real dark spaces. They feel like there's nothing that is shining a path. And we are walking around like this, looking for each other. We as people who actually could benefit from other folks' stories. We as trans folk could benefit. We as non-binary, we as women, we as men, we are trying to find each other's stories. Is there someone like me? Is there someone like me? And so what happens in this country, the foundation of liberation starts. It starts with folk who learn first how to just speak pidgin English. They'll speak pidgin English, and then they got to refine that to learn how to actually read and write English. So we get people like Frederick Douglass. We get people who try to free themselves from religious restraints like James Hay. We get people who try to create paths to freedom. Harriet Tubman. We know those stories, don't we? We know them very well. We got some, and we got some white folk that you know. John Brown made a lot of noise. Real strong abolitionist, was ready to knock everybody's head off. Right? We had in this country, people were agitated. And this wasn't just an argument of just North and South. Can I be real with you? This is not just a conversation of North and South. This is a conversation of who do we need to listen to and what will it cost us? Because politics, politics is very interesting at this time. If we begin to talk about emancipation, no one ever got 40 acres and a mule. So if you read that and you thought black folk got that didn't happen. I think that it is so important to understand that the alignment of these stories, how important the stories, how these stories become so important to work together to create the premise for liberation. That we've got to consider why it was important for affirmative action to exist. Why is it important for people like Ruby Bridges to go to school, to make sure that to ensure her safety. We've got to consider people like Bayard Rustin, who was an organizer for the March on Washington. I know y'all didn't come here for a history lesson, but this is important, because the rest of this other stuff we can get to the love moment, because we got to get critical. I'm not really after critical race theory as much as I'm after us just being critical, us being conscious, us being compassionate. Because the more we practice that together as a community, not just alongside of just race, but realizing who's in the trench with us, we can actually know how to do this work. We can actually not just shut down. We can actually lean into the tough conversations. We can actually sit back and realize that this community doesn't just take my word for it, but after this, you get off of this and then you go do your homework. You go think, you go talk to, go look at your history regarding Stonewall. Look at the story of Marsha Johnson, trans woman who threw the first brick. Because she won't have it. Let's consider there's so much intersections in our histories for liberation. Black liberation contributes to queer liberation inform. And if we keep working on liberation together, right? Women's liberation, right? Let's right? There is trans liberation. All of it is there. There is non-binary it's in the liberation. And so though we could put this all encapsulated in ideas of history, I need you to be not just history making, but freedom making. Anytime you get a chance to look at Story's work, you'll see a lot of that freedom making. Because that's not only what history is made out of, it's in most of, if not all of your bloodlines. There is a liberator in you. There is a liberator in you. There is a liberator in you, Lena. There is a liberator in you. There is a liberator in you, Justice. There's a liberator constantly. Like, and if we think about, there's a liberator in folk like Danny, who are there are liberators in our circle. And if we don't circle ourselves with enough liberators, then we only experience one part of what it means to be free. We only experience one part. We only experience a glimpse of it. We got to circle ourselves with liberators, people that we can attach our freedom work to. We've got to realize that in this kind of community, in this kind of camaraderie, in this kind of allyship, in this kind of accomplishment, in this kind of, I like corporates myself. I like folk who like to get in trouble with me. But with these kinds of corporates, with these kinds of, in the words of the dear senator, he's slipping my mind right now. I'm going to say Elijah Cummings. I don't know. I'm feeling like that's not it though. But in these kinds of circles, we need troublemakers. We need troublemakers. Bayard Rustin would say that we need angelic troublemakers. I love thinking of my family as angels. I do. Because we take on many forms. We take on, in this space, we can be angelic troublemakers. Let's be Rustinian for a minute on that. We get a chance to engage in thinking about the power of not dreaming of freedom, but taking freedom plus the dream and creating fantasy. Freedom plus the dream equals fantasy. It is the radicalized imagination of one's existence. You heard it right there. It is that, the radicalized imagination. And we are striving for both freedom and the dream. And freedom and the dream should create a fantasy that you can't live without. That is rooted. Fantasy is rooted in liberation. Fantasy is rooted in love. Fantasy is rooted in unification. Fantasy is rooted in imagination. Fantasy is rooted in creativity. Fantasy has that ability of making that happen. Those are very clear principles that honestly, Jose Vasconcelos, a Mexican philosopher, talks about in his book, the cosmic rays. It's the power of fantasy that offers us the ability to not actually ignore someone's skin color, but look at the experience and actually seek a unifying principle in achieving fantasy by looking at them from the aspect of unity, within the aspect of creativity, within the aspect of love. That's some powerful stuff when you think about what we have the ability to do as folk on this platform, to be those individuals that could actually lean into this work and say, I know what it's like to hold both freedom and a dream. I'm your greatest fantasy. I'm your greatest fantasy. Because of that, you're already situated in being fantastic. You are already situated in being fascinating. So there's something there. And one of the things that we have to arrive to together as a community, as people, is we got to know who's in the trench with us. We've got to realize who's in the trenches with us. It's a powerful month to acknowledge that. It's a powerful ability to acknowledge who can share in the love of our struggle as well as the love of our joy. Who can share in the love of that? Who can help us dismantle that system that constantly keeps saying we're not what we deserve, when you know that within your fantasy, you deserve to be who you are, to love who you will, and keep becoming. And keep becoming. You are a blessing. I don't use that term often, but you are a blessing. You are a blessing. I need you to know that you are a blessing, that you are part of my liberation. Can I help you see? You are a part of my liberation as much as I'm a part of your liberation. I don't only need you to fight for me. I don't need you possibly to fight at all. I just need you to stand with me. I need you to be steadfast with me. I need you to be unmovable with me, unwavering with me. I need you to feel like you know that when your body comes into the space that you disrupt the status quo. Come on, somebody. I really need for you to understand that when you take position and you know your position, not your power, but when you know your position, you know your worth. You know how you need to stand. You know if you stand firm and you're not wavering, you know that just that alone is already causing people to take your fantasy and turn it into their greatest fear. Your fantasy is somebody's greatest fear. Catch that for yourself. Know that about yourself. You need to know that you are somebody's story. You need to know that you are somebody's critical gender theory. And it's going to be attached to a healthy practice if you share it. You are attached to my becoming. I am attached to your becoming. Because when I think of putting freedom with the dream, I'm getting the fantasy of us all working together. And I see, look, I'm with you, Heather. I'm with you. I may be a quiet person, but my support speaks loud. I hear you. That's the kind of work we need. You really got to see that for yourself. Sitting with me in my struggle. If you can sit with me in my struggle, if you can sit with me in my despair, just like you can sit with me in my joys and dance with me. I need you to really take the moment to understand that I'm willing to sit with you. I don't want to be so positive that I'm no empathetic good. Come on. I don't want to be so positive that I'm no empathetic good. I want to share in your strengths. I want to share in your struggle. I want to share in your love. This is the month to do all of that because honestly, in the words of Nikki Giovanni, Black love is Black wealth. Black love is Black wealth. I'm saying that as an act of solidarity. And it's not contingent on you just being Black with me. You don't have to be Black to experience that. I promise you. I'm inviting you to understand that this love is so filled with wealth that when you leave out of this space with me, I want you to feel like $1 million. Some of you might already have $1 million. You just better feel like Oprah. You better feel like $1 billion, honey. Feel like it. You know what Oprah said? Watch a little clip of her. I love myself some Oprah. She was standing next to a televangelist on a red carpet. And they said, what's on Oprah's mind? Oprah said, I'm living God's dream. She said, I've come to realize that I am living God's dream. Now, we all know how Oprah lived. But can you just imagine with me, whether you are theistic, a non-theistic, sit with me in this. Are you fulfilling the fantasy that you are? We fulfill everybody else's fantasies. Are you fulfilling the fantasy that you are? Are you living at your greatest potential? Are you in the process of understanding your becoming? Are you in the process of engaging your greatest possibility? Are you in the process of gearing up and understanding your potentiality? Are you understanding how filled with promise you really are? If you root yourself in possibility, potentiality, and the promise of who you are, and all of your becoming, and all of your human flourishing, while sitting in your somewhat sitting in your worst human condition, I invite you to celebrate with me. I invite you to embrace this month in solidarity and an act of radical love and an act of embracing the dream of both freedom with the dream and engaging the fantasies with other people who are interested in liberation. I invite you not into a history. I invite you into the makings of it. I invite you into memories that you'll never forget. I invite you to explore in a curiosity of knowing those who share in the trench with you. I invite you into an experience of a Black Love Month that you have never seen or felt before, that you enter into a space of absolute solidarity, allyship, or if you got someone that you love, that you can just show radical love to, whatever business you know in your community, I invite you to do it, to engage it, to not hold back on it. Just like we out here supporting our own community, I want you to show how intersectional you are. I want you to show how actual diverse you are, how actually courageous you are in your own being, that you know that you can show up for those who have also set in their struggle as well as set in their joy. Because when we do all of that, hurt people don't hurt people. In this case, we're doing the work where hurt people don't have to hurt people. But we can take the case like Nelson Mandela said. I realized, he says, that my oppressor, gives me chills thinking about that word, that my oppressor had to be liberated too. He said this after he came out of prison. He said this after he came out of prison. So here's the secret. If hurt people can hurt people, then liberated people can liberate people. Join me in that work. That's what we're going to do. Let's sit with them in it. As they're figuring it out, let's work it. Because that's what solidarity looks like. That's what community looks like. That's what family looks like. That's what the collective looks like. That's why we got all this going on. As always, look, it's been good being with you. Hold space for somebody. You never know how you might liberate them, even in your standing or your sitting. Be with them in the process called life. Justice, can you love me now?
You are way more than enough, so go out and be great.
Be great. Do what you love. Right now. So good to see you. I will see you next week. We're going to try to bring on some friends. Y'all ready for some friends of mine? I am. Alright. Y'all be good.